here a couple weeks ago. It said that even some of the people in the mental institutions really don't have a mental problem. It's that they might be possessed, but the medical out there don't recognize it. So, I mean, they're trying to maybe treat somebody medically that it's a spiritual situation and not a medical situation. So, I mean, I'm just kind of curious, you know. I mean, it can get scary out there.
Yeah, that's certainly a possibility, a certain issue. Now, you may know that we don't drink, we don't use harmful or illegal drugs, we don't smoke, and this is according to a revelation that was received by Joseph Smith back in the early 19th century, called the Word of Wisdom. And so I think that there are many people that, under the influence of various things, do open themselves up to those types of evil entities, perhaps, and they would do things they wouldn't normally do.
Yeah, or they're influenced by it. I mean, you know, I've never been in that situation, but I mean, you know, it's scary, you know, out there, you know, the way society is, you know, it's changed, you know, like you remember, Daniel, like Leave It to Beaver, you know, and all those Donna Reed show, you know, where they show.
Not personally, that was before my time, but I have watched them. I'm aware of the shows, yes.
Yeah, well, I'm sure you have watched them. I mean, they're on TV all the time, 24/7. But I mean, if you look at it, and it gives you, even going back to the 50s, like the Honeymooners with Jackie Gleason. I mean, society was so much different then. I mean, yeah, they had pressures of certain things, but you know, I think with the internet and the way society has been changing, I mean, the disrespect of young kids to their parents and to elders has really been a major change I've seen. And, you know, I'm just, you know, like with your religion, and like I'm a Protestant. My original religion was Mennonite, going back to my father, and and my grandmother, actually brought her father's father, or her father, brought the Mennonite church into the United States and the Dakotas back then. So I mean, different views on religion, but the paranormal, I think is open to all religions. I mean, if you've seen something in your life, that you can't explain, I classify that as paranormal.
Right. And I personally, I don't like that term a whole lot, although I guess I haven't found a better one for it, because my feeling is that everything is normal. It's just some things we don't understand yet. But going back to what you were saying, we do believe that Satan is a real being, and that he and his minions will use every tool they can, and their purpose is to make us unhappy and to try and thwart God's plan, which in the end won't happen, but they're kind of trying to take as many down with them as they can. And I have really been saddened by seeing what, I guess, social media has turned people into. The things that they say to each other, things that they will do on this medium that they, I think, maybe would not have done face-to-face. And as most advances can be used for good, they can be used for evil, and so Satan is there to kind of corrupt it into whatever evil use that will destroy us that he can. So we believe that's a very real fight.
I just think it's because of the time. I mean, I'm sure my father, his father said the same thing about him, these younger, people. But, society has changed a lot, and I do say a lot of it is because of the internet. I mean, all these weird, challenges. I guess there's a major challenge going on right now where males cut their penis off on the internet, on like
I heard that.
Yeah, on Facebook and stuff like that. And they're doing it as a challenge, and without even thinking. I don't know if they're being possessed or what in that blankety blank is going on. But, to go to the point of, I can see doing the ice challenge and, taking, this pepper challenge and stuff like that. But cutting your genitals, your penis off, it's totally crazy. And, and that's how bad the media has influenced the young people. I mean, if it wasn't for the internet, that wouldn't be going on. Let's face it.
Right.
I
tell my kids, I said, just so you know, all these weird things going on. When I was your age, no one ever had the thought of doing that.
No,
There were bad things happening, but
the
no
internet.
one really.
The internet.
Yeah.
I mean, look how many people back, was it a year or two ago, started out in Japan, people, committing suicide on the internet. They get on the internet and, with their friends, and then they kill themselves, And, it's all because of challenges. Or they get like it was a girl here about less than a year ago that she was ridiculed on one of her Facebook accounts by people, right? She killed herself live on the internet. I mean, if it wasn't for the internet, there would have been a lot less deaths. And it has to be somebody's state of mind to go along with that. That's what the scary part is. And I don't know. I don't know as with your church how they handle situations like that. But as a parent and stuff like that, I'm really, it just appalls me that the stuff can even be allowed on the internet, just like back years ago when they were doing in the Middle East the beheadings and showing stuff like that on the internet. All it does is entice other people that maybe are not healthy and doing things they shouldn't even be considered doing.
I think that could very well be the case. We're almost in a contagion of these crazy acts that build upon themselves. Now, I'd like to point out that the name of our church is actually the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And so we think that means that we are in the latter days. And there are particular challenges in these latter days that followers of God have not seen before. So these types of things you were talking about are kind of an indication that these are last days or latter days when the forces of evil are kind of marshaling up everything they can to try and wreak havoc upon the mortal race.
I don't know, but the end of times has been going on for so long. Not our generation, but previous generations and previous generations. Now, again, I blame a lot of it is on the internet. I won't even say the minister's name, but he's passed on now. But he predicted the world was going to come to end numerous times through his church, right. And people sold everything they had. And gave it to the church because they were convinced the world was going to end on such and such date. And then when it didn't happen, then they did the same thing again. I made a mistake, and, I read it wrong. And then, it's bad because, if go back farther, like the group that believed they were going to be picked up by UFOs, a certain religion.
I believe.
Yeah. And it's scary out there. It's so scary. So, how as a Mormon, how do you feel about that?
Well, that's a good question. As I said, we believe we are in the latter days or the last days, but any attempt to try and sort of put a date on that, I think, is always going to be problematic and is doomed to failure. We believe there are a number of things that have to happen before, say, the second coming of Christ or anything like that, and some of those things have not happened yet. So we actually tend to be fairly positive, though. There was one of our leaders who was the president of our church. His name was Gordon B. Hinckley. Many people may have seen him on interviews in 60 Minutes, and he was friends with Larry King and was one of the more kind of visible ones in the media out there. And he was actually a very positive person, and he, in his talks and in his comments, he always tried to stress the positive. And he said that, while it's true that there are many, that evil has never been greater than it is now, and things are happening now, but he said, conversely, good has never been as strong as it has been. The followers of Christ have never been as many, and there have never been as many ways that God's word can be spread and that good information can be spread. So we have a saying that, those who are prepared should not fear. And this is one reason that we stress being physically prepared, being spiritually prepared, having some idea of emergency preparedness, food storage, and then also trying to prepare yourself spiritually and what we call stand in holy places to avoid things that are evil and avoid thoughts or actions or things that would tend to take one away from God. And if you kind of put your mindset in that, the fear really isn't that necessary. So we believe that a lot of things can help us see and stress the positive things. And if we're doing that, we can also be a great benefit and help to others as well. So that's our hope.
Yeah. Well, how's your church recognized to the end of the times? I mean, do they believe that your members of your church will survive, or do they believe they will be all going to heaven? I mean, let's let the listeners know about that. I mean, because honestly,
Okay.
I don't know much about your religion. I'll be honest with you, I know nothing.
Okay. Well, that's not a problem. I can certainly answer anything that you think would be interesting or worthy topic. The idea is that rather than just our members, members of our church versus not, we believe that what is really being favored here by God and by events would be people who have righteous intent, those in their hearts. So while we believe that we have truth and we have many beneficial things, for us, being a Mormon doesn't mean you have no worries and you're automatically saved. It's what's in your heart. And so for all those people who have good intent in their hearts and are trying to live a Christ-like discipline, they will be in good places. We believe that at Christ's coming, the wicked will eventually be destroyed. And those wicked aren't those who belong to a particular organization or not. It all depends on what the intent of their hearts is and what they're out there trying to do. So we look forward to a time when the wickedness will be taken from the earth, and what will be left will be people who are righteous and who are looking for doing good to each other. And that is not something that's unique to us. This would involve anyone who has those desires.
Okay. So, I mean, when did you start out in the religion? Was your parents Mormon and then you followed, or did you just all of a sudden one day figured this is the religion that I feel comfortable with?
That's a good question. The people kind of come to our church in many different ways. From myself, I could take it. I definitely know it to my mother. Now, we were from the South, and she was raised in a different Christian religion. And she always, as a child, had many questions that her ministers could not answer. She wondered about what angels were, wondered about spirits, wondered about what happens when you die, wondered about the nature of God. And her ministers, her pastors, really could not answer her questions to any degree of satisfaction for her. And so she got to have these questions throughout all of her life. And I guess after I was born, she began more intently seeking them out. And eventually, found this church and sort of found the answers to the questions she was looking for. And she was baptized into and joined this church when I was about 3 years old. So since then, I was raised in it and have decided to continue in it. Anyway, that's kind of my background there.
Okay. Now, how do you feel like out-of-life, body experiences?
What was that again?
How do you feel about out-of-body experiences? Like somebody is got hit by a car and they're maybe dead till they're revived, or in the hospital and they slip away and they're revived, but then they all of a sudden, they're hovering over their body. They see their body. They see their whole life flash by them. And then they see, going to the light, but then they're all of a sudden told, go back home. It's not your time.
Right. Yeah, okay, so sort of near-death experiences. Well, we believe that those are certainly possible, and they really fit in well with our theology. We believe that as living beings, as souls, we have a spirit and a body. We believe that our spirit is eternal. We existed before we were born into this mortal body, and our spirit continues to exist after death. And so these experiences and I've been very interested in, I've read about them since I was a kid. I remember books like Return from Tomorrow and things like that. I can't vouch for all of them, but they certainly ring true to me, to many of them. And we would say this really tends to illustrate for us the eternal nature of the spirit and kind of what awaits us. For us, we try not to fear death because we have an understanding of what happens afterwards. And we have a belief there's a very strong family connection. And then often when someone dies, if there is this traveling to the other realm or across the veil, we would say, they're met with someone they know, a beloved family member. And we believe that our family members who have passed on keep watch over us and have a close connection to us. And perhaps for some reason, people that go through these experiences and they are close to death but are able to be saved through medical means, that there's some reason for that perhaps they're given a glimpse into something to help them understand something, or to help them accomplish whatever they need to do in mortality. But they seem to be a pretty good explanation for what we would understand